Right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to our Saturday discussion. And each Saturday, we will have this meeting at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And this is a great opportunity for us to study along with the Certificate in Happiness Study, the June cohort. And the purpose of this is for us graduates in MA in Happiness Studies, as well as for our uh, alumni, as well as the current student, to have an open discussion. Because you know what, when we discuss the topic together, we will gain a much deeper understanding of it, just as we have learned in the 3 R's of change. And those are reminder, repetition, and ritual. By exercising those, we will build up a long-lasting change in our understanding of the happiness study knowledge. So I would like to thank you for joining us. And also the purpose of these discussion is to exercising the spiral theory of knowledge, right? Because the more we exercising these teaching, each time we circle back to what we know about this knowledge, we will gain a much deeper understanding of it. So this week we are moving to week 7, the second part of the second spiritual principle, stating that the ordinary is elevated to the extraordinary through mindful presence. And I am super excited to have this discussion with everyone. So let's get right to it. And again, these are just my I ams, right? Things that I find interesting, actionable, and meaningful in house lecture, but we are not limited to it. There are also reading. There are also material from online lectures and many other wonderful reading from the Gen Plus and the Gen Plus Plus. So feel free to share if you have anything that you would like to contribute to this wonderful conversation. So let's get to 7.1, which is the first part of the 4-part lecture from Dr. Tao Ben Shahar. And 7.1 is titled Meditating on Emotions. Very powerful. So the previous week we discussed about meditation, the formal meditation and the informal meditation, and we have all learned the importance of meditation in our well-being. And for me, it is profound, right? Because when we meditate on an object, we, as we doing that, as we focus on one single object, it means that we letting go of the worry of the future. We letting go of the regret of the past. We focus on just one thing. And by doing that, we clear our mind. We letting go of all of the negativities. And eventually, you know what? That single object, we don't even have to think of it. We don't even have to focus on it. When we reach this very unique space where we are one with the present, the real present, not the present that you are listening to me. Because if you are still focusing on my voice or looking at the screen, that is already the past, right? Because our 5 senses have to process the information through our brain and then make sense of it. So whatever you hear, whatever you see, that is not the real present. The real present is when you are one with the universe, and the meditating and help us achieve that. So in week 7, we get to learn many great ideas from Dr. Taban Shahar, and meditating on emotion is one of the most powerful meditation, in my opinion. And I know that there are many of our student here has already completed the certificate program, as well as some of the MA students. So we know the importance of emotional well-being. Literally, the entire field of psychology, well, a large part of it, at the very least, focus on emotion, because we can, through emotion, we can see, we can recognize the thought and the action, the thinking that we had in the past, and our emotion can also predict the thinking and the action that we will have in the future. So when we're meditating on our emotion, we can truly see the essence of our inner self, right? So in the beginning, Dr. Tal Ben Shah tell us that the using emotion as an object of observation can help us utilize mindfulness by observing emotion. And this will consist of cognitive thought and physical sensation. This practice helps in recognizing and understanding our emotion better. And by observing our emotion, we don't act on it. We get to actually understand where our emotion are coming from. And that will help us with our mental health. It allows us to distance ourselves from our thought and our sensation at that very moment. And by doing that, we will cultivate a better emotional well-being. Very, 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 very powerful. And it is even more powerful when we meditating on gratitude, on kindness, on all of the wonderful emotion that we have, like love and kindness, right? Because by having positive emotion, it will help us uh, be kinder, and it is easier for us to have nicer thought and nicer action. So those are the things that I find fascinating when it's come to meditating on emotion, and it will give us peace and relaxation during we if we can persistently practice mindfulness. And um, in many teaching, the expert tell us that through the cultivation of positive emotion, it will make us into a better person. So meditation in general is already good. If you can meditating on our emotion, that will be even better. So if you would like to share anything on meditating on emotion, I would love to hear. Um, and then we can move on to 7.2 on a float state, which is one of my favorite topics. So I just want to introduce meditating on emotion very quickly um, before we discuss the flow state further. So do we have anyone in the Zoom call have any experience when it comes to meditating on emotion, or do you have any question that we can build on these ideas and lessons? Well, I guess it's important for us to note that the goal of mindfulness is not to change or eliminate emotion, but to observe them without attachment, right? We have to accept our emotion fully, and that will help us to have a better emotional well-being. I see Casey raise his hand. Hello, Casey. It's good to see you with us today.
Hey, Ben, thank you for hosting these. I've wanted to be on all of them, but I haven't been able, my timing hasn't worked until tonight. But thank you. I appreciate this conversation. This is, I don't know if anybody saw, I happened to write the blog for HSA on spirituality and happiness. So I kind of covered this topic, and I had started a book a few years ago, and Tal was kind enough to uh, assist me in my approach. Well, anyway, he brought up the concept of ACT, which we recently had, right, the session, and I unfortunately missed that as well. So,
Mm.
but anyway, I know that they covered uh, the concepts behind ACT, and so how that relates to your conversation in this topic today is that I applied ACT to my morning meditation, and when I go into um, like the no-mindedness, I'm trying to, and I'm realizing I'm having thoughts coming in, and what I do is I employ the acceptance and cognitive therapy concepts to look at the analyze the emotions, often laugh at them. That friendly curiosity you're talking about, uh, definitely I sometimes laugh at my mind and I just say, why are you thinking like this? This is not who you are. And that's how I'm slowly changing my mindset and quite frankly, my identity by no longer associating or letting those thoughts, which are just memes and samskaras, if you will, from our past that haunt us and try to control our daily rituals instead of and locking you back into the past, dragging you back into the past or into the fear of the future instead of allowing you to focus on mindfully on the eternal now. And I can tell you that it's a never ending journey. I certainly haven't mastered it, but I've enjoyed the process and the fact that I can laugh at it. And one of the things to share with your audience is that one of the things that I find amusing how they described it was it's like sometimes you turn it into sort of a comedy routine or you name these thoughts after silly movies or comedic routines that you think of and you say what a silly thought, isn't that funny? And then you take the power out of it and it kind of just dissipates right before you and it allows that emotion to flow right through you and out of you. And that's all I need to elaborate on for now, but thank you for hosting this.
Yep, that is so beautiful. I appreciate that, Casey. And before I forget, I remember seeing you in one of our Zoom. And well, I'm from Portland, Oregon, and I think you used to live in Portland, Oregon too, right?
Yeah, we had a mountaintop outside of Portland, about an hour outside of Portland, and we were developing a wellness retreat there. Unfortunately, we ended up selling that property, and my partner and I went separate ways. Not to bring down your audience, but it launched me on this amazing, amazing journey that I'm on now. So now I'm living globally, nomadically, in search of how do I say it? Connections, community, and celebration. So that's what I'm doing.
Beautiful.
I'm the traveling
There,
happiness center
there
now.
you go. We are all happier center, yeah. And I love
All
I remember Tao brought up the idea of happier center. And toward the end of the semester, he was like, you know what? Each and every one of us is a happier center. And that is so powerful because one of my favorite quote is the quote from the Buddha, stating that we are like a candle. When we share our light with other candle,
yeah,
our life
yes.
is not cut in short, but the room is getting brighter, the world is getting brighter, and it is absolutely beautiful. And it's so much relatable to the idea of the happier center, the mobile happier center. So thank you for your contribution. And you know what? You never know. We might start a happier center here, right here in Portland, and we know where to find you. All right. But I love how you mentioned ACT. And we learned that in the MA class, and it's called Acceptance and Commitment Therapy Coaching. And it is very, very powerful. And it is very much relatable to the topic of week 7. And I think it is beautiful. for us to be able to accept our emotion, and we we act on it, we make sense of it, and see it as the view of the observer and not letting it control our life. In the past, I've learned a way of living, of focusing on positive emotion, and I thought I was good. I thought it was brilliant until I learned more in the happiness studies program that it is important to have permission to be human, to observe those negative emotions as well. Because in the past, I chose not to look at it. I thought that it will go away, but the truth is that those emotion we kind of like subconsciously bottling it somewhere, and it show up, it show up once in a while. So it's better to just observe and allow us to have that moment of observation on our negative emotion so that it have a pathway to release out somewhere and then just I guess dissipate it. And I think it's very, very important, very, very valuable. And we all are fellow journey. We are still working on this, and we are becoming a better each and every day. And I feel so blessed to have everyone with me in this journey. Mm, Thank you for joining us today. Okay. Uh, cool, beautiful. So that is that. Let's move on. We're gonna come back to this because everything is interconnected, right? So we will circle back with this. And I still Casey, you still have your hand raised. Do you have something to say, or okay? I'll just lower my hand, just so I know because I don't want you to miss anyone when they have something to share. All right, beautiful. Moving on to 7.2. All right, 7.2 is the float state. This is my favorite topic. Is my favorite study in the entirety of happiness studies. So the flow state is a very fascinating and very, very powerful mental state that transform the way we experience life. This can even transform our performance on our task. And the flow state, as many of you might be familiar with, is it often described as being in the zone. Okay. And I first heard this term when I watched NBA back in 2003, 2004. And that was when I first came over to the United States. And my friend would talk about being in the zone and how unstoppable they are. And I had no idea what it was. It was a huge culture shock. But later on, when I learned about the flow state and how there was a book written about it in the 1980s, Section Mihai led a very, very wonderful research study. And it has so much to do with performance and happiness. And I believe they are still studying the flow uh, state right now. So it is described that when you are in flow or when someone is in flow, they will experience a sense of effortlessness involvement where times seem to stand still and every action feel intuitive and seamless, right? So I used the example of a basketball player earlier, and I love it when I used to watch a lot of basketball, and I just love it when, let's say, someone like Michael Jordan, ripping through the course, and he seemed unstoppable, and I thought that was beautiful. And then I realized that in the research on the flow state, Mihai originally didn't didn't go out there to study this. He was looking for peak performance, and he did a bunch of interview on peak performers. So it could be an athlete, or it could be an artist, or even researcher. And after many, many interviews, he realized that there is a common experience in all of these peace performer. And the idea of the float state started um, to be introduced. And to me personally, this has a lot of similarity to mindfulness, to to meditation, and namely on in connection to meditating on emotion. So when a performer, whether it is a basketball player or a singer on stage, they would want to get on this flow state. And when they are on this flow state, they can perform best. And it is beautiful to see them just projecting out their performance effortlessly. They didn't have to think about it. They don't have to worry about what is the next step or what is the next word to say or to sing. And they just perform beautifully. And this take me back to 20, well, when I went back to Vietnam and I went to this this coffee shop and there was a live performance. And this one girl, she went up to the stage and she started performing one of the Adele song. And it was so incredible because her English wasn't good when she introducing herself. But when she started singing, I couldn't even tell that she was born and raised in Vietnam. It was perfect. And then I believe she was in the float state. And there are many more to be discussed in in this. But let's touch on the benefit of flow very quickly before we discuss further. So the benefit of flow, peak experience and performance, high level of enjoyment and optimal performance. This help increase motivation. Flow experience are addictive in a positive sense, encouraging repeated engagement. It will enhance creativity, and it will improve self-esteem and happiness. So in order to get into a flow state, the most important thing is that we have to find the balance between challenge and skill. Because if it is too boring, people are just simply not able to get to that flow state. It was just too easy. But it is too hard, then they can't get into the flow state neither. So if you were to simplify it, the flow state or the flow zone creates something very, very wonderful where it can help a person grow the best they can. And to me, this is extremely, extremely important. I read a study somewhere. I forgot the exact title and name for it, but what they were trying to figure out is that they were trying to figure out why was it that certain neighborhood of African American, it was extremely difficult for them to get out of that neighborhood to go to school and get a professional job. And after that research study, they find it pretty shocking that for every single element that keeping the children away from success, those elements is very similar to those who are born in a wealthy family. And when I read that, it's led me right back to the flow state right away because I realized that, you know what, for the unfortunate children who have to live in a poor community, it was just too hard for them to get out of it. And they just couldn't get to that zone of having the right balance of challenge and skill so they can slowly moving up. And as far as for the rich and wealthy children, either it was too easy for them where their family can, let's say, hire a tutor, a math tutor for them if they need it. They can provide, and everything seemed too easy, and they might not do it. And also knowing and spending time with some of those children, I have friends who are in similar situation. Some of them they have everything, but they struggle a lot because their parents are very, very successful. So to them, it was impossible to follow the step of their parent, and they just gave up on it. They live a good life, but they they didn't fulfill their potential. Even though I see so much potential in them, as I see in the chat, Casey said that it's called the Somerville Studies and let you grow. Can you share more about on this, Casey? Because I would love to hear more if you remember.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Ben. Here's what I remember. So it also has to do with how they turned the question, which was a critical linchpin in launching positive psychology, because they quit studying, like, why are all these children failing in these challenged environments, which are economically challenged, they're nutritionally challenged. They often had one parent. There were drugs and alcohol messing up the home lives, and lack of parental guidance, and all these things. And it led to the growing tips studies, which were, well, wait, why are there a few people that, in spite of all this, how do they survive and how do they thrive and go on to success in spite of their background? And when they changed the question, it brought them into a different field of study and a different perspective on how to appreciate what was going on. So instead of throwing money at the wrong things or strategies, they said, how can we create the mindset that encourages others that to believe in themselves, that they can overcome this situation. So I hope I did this justice, Ben. I don't know. But I took that. I took Tall's just for edification. I started studying with Tall in 2014, but I was still had a job, and I did his certification in positive psychology when he had the Whole Being Institute. And then I went on and did positive psychology coaching. And then when he created HSA, I had several dear friends and peers who said, you have to follow Tall to HSA. And so I did. And then I got reintroduced to it as I was, quitting corporate and getting out of that. Anyway, I've been distracted, and now I'm finally coming into it. And so 10 years later, I'm going to be able to apply this stuff. And in fact, if I'm not taking up too much of your time, I actually have a 10-hour workshop next Saturday. I start it. I'm doing volunteer work with the Oaxaca Learning Center here in Mexico, and they serve underprivileged, motivated students. So the growing tips ones, from 14 to 23 years of age. So they're high school and early college, and it's a beautiful thing. But this is a big part of it. I'm trying to help them create the life that they dare to dream, type of thing, and leveraging critical thinking and the science of happess. So
Wow,
I've talked enough.
that
I'm
is
going to go away
beautiful.
again.
No, don't worry about it. This is for us, this is for discussion. This is something that we didn't really have in the MA program because we have so much material that I didn't really have time to have an open discussion like this. And this is the reason I'm having this. So I love to learn from you, especially, what, you've been on this journey for 10 years. And that is
Yes.
amazing. And well, happy 10th years anniversary.
Yeah. Am I still? Yeah. If I may, then I employ in my positive psychology coaching, which is so basically my niche, if you will be in helping other people middle-aged people that feel stuck in life, like I did. I woke up at 50 and said, "Oh my gosh, what have I done with my life?" And I haven't accomplished what I know I should, and it sent me on a whole new path. And the beauty of it is that in my practice, I created a kind of a Venn diagram, if you will, of strengths, values, and passion, and that's where you find that intersection is where you find your flow state. So when you're working within your strengths, and you're even with stretch goals, if you remember, I don't know if everybody in this has gotten to stretch goals yet, but if you're using stretch goals and it's something you're passionate about, and I didn't grow up with a value system. I grew up with a single mom who worked really hard to provide us with everything we needed, and she encouraged us, and she taught me how to be a good person in society, but not really a strong backbone of values. And so I had to create those later in life, when I realized that, gosh, they don't really exist for me. And so, but when I was able to do that, it just brought everything together for me, and combine that with my personal spiritual awakening, which I like to say, meet me at the intersection of ancient wisdom and progressive science. And so I learned from the masters. Paul is my teacher, 10 years my junior, and very, very much my teacher. But it really has allowed me to, I experience flow every day. I live in gratitude every day. I start my day with those meditations, and it sets my course. And things that used to knock me out of my course and knock me into the dwelling on the past and fearing the future, they kind of slide off my shoulder now. And it allows me to handle life a lot better, which is the purpose of positive psychology. Mission accomplished.
Well, congratulations. And I love how you connect the flow with meditating on positive emotion, right? Because you mentioned gratitude. And I'm very lucky to have learned from some of the most wonderful mentor. And I do have a sense of what you are saying on spiritual awakening, because that is something that I can feel in the past 2 years, learning with happiness studies and a couple of other master. And I think it is a wonderful, wonderful journey. In the past, I have this scientific point of view where I only believe it when I see it. And I thought it was a really good view in life. But then later on, I realized that if I were to just use my five senses, there is only so much I can see. There's so much I can feel. And then I got to learn about Helen Keller, where she was unable to see, unable to hear for a very long time. And she found meaning, she found purpose, and she found light in darkness. And when I read her works, I didn't know she was blind. I thought she was just any other great thinker. And then when I learned that she was blind, she was deaf, had those disability when she was 12 months old. And I was like, this lady, she can see much better than me, and she can hear the voice of the world much clearer than I am. And that's definitely opened my mind. And I would love to hear more from you, Casey, during this discussion, because this week is all about it. It is all about getting closer to your inner self, to get into flow, get into that mindfulness practice. So please share. Yep. All right. And in the chat, I see Chilling. Welcome in, Chilling. And she said that, thank you, Casey, for sharing. It reminded me a lot of growth mindset, and love to know more with the project that for the youth generation in Mexico. Well, absolutely. Oh, I see Giannia too. Welcome. I think I chat with you a little bit on WhatsApp. Thanks for joining us. And yep. Going back to a chilling question, that's something that I forgot to ask you too. I would love to learn more about your project of the youth in Mexico. I have some friends, some Mexican friends that even like co-workers I used to work with, and they often told me how dangerous it was down there because the cartel pretty much run uh, the country, and this can be very very dangerous for the younger and upcoming generation. And I can only imagine how much struggle that they have to deal with. And are you working with that sector or like how do you what is the project that you're working on? And I think it's a wonderful work that you are doing. But can you tell us more?
Sure, Ben. Thank you. And thank you, Chialan, for asking. So first of all, part of my personal ethos of my travel is that I do something to contribute locally when I'm staying somewhere. My long-term goal is to do slow-matic travel. So it's nomad, but a little slower. So I get a little more cultural immersion. And I'm spending a lot of time in Latin America. So I've been on the road since I started last November in 23. And my first trip was going to Cartagena, Colombia, for the retreat, the HSA retreat, which was amazing. So everyone who's on this call, when you have the opportunity to go to an HSA retreat, I mean, if you want to connect with like-hearted people that are aligning, mind, body, spirit to contribute to a better world, no better place to start. And there was about 100 people there, and I felt like I had the opportunity in 4 days to at least get a little bit of a feel for what everybody was how important HSA was to them, how important the study of positive psychology, science of happiness is to them, and their ability to move forward. So to get back to my personal story, so I'm trying to do cultural immersion, but also kind of find here, I'm writing also about people that give so much to their communities without the expectation of getting rich. They just give their heart and soul to their community. And all these young people working, there's a benefactor. She's an American expat. She and her husband have chosen this to be kind of their legacy. And so I think when they came here to Oaxaca, that the Oaxaca Learning Center was a little bit on shaky financial ground, and they helped shore it up. And in fact, I think next week I'm going to be able to present in their renovated space. So I'm just getting involved there. I've met a few of the people. I haven't met the students yet. I have one student online on Thursday nights, and I've only done 2 so far, but it's called Intercambio. And so for half the time we speak in English, and he's learning English, and half the time we speak in Spanish, which helps me learn Spanish. So, which is really cool. But to really get back to it, specifically for the Oaxaca Learning Center, they ask people who are interested that want to get a volunteer to get involved and to volunteer, that to understand 70% of all students in Oaxaca come from underprivileged poverty backgrounds. And that's quite a challenge. And nothing excited me more than to see how amazing in the United States it was to realize that firstborn generation immigrants are often the most successful ones. They're just, quite frankly, hungrier. And the people like me that were born, I wasn't born with a spoon in my mouth, but I was middle class. I got to go to an Ivy League school because I could play baseball, blah, blah. But in the end, I realized that I didn't fit in the corporate world. I wasn't even good at trying to make myself rich as a solopreneur. I never failed at anything, but I also didn't get the brass ring. And that kind of led me to my spiritual awakening. I was like, what is my purpose? And once I created my value system and looked at my strengths better and kind of decided, really what was I passionate about, and really, the ability to go out into the world and experience other cultures, which changes your perspective and gives you less of that entitled American perspective that I grew up with. I can't speak for the audience here, but I just, it's invaluable to me, and to have people. I just can't believe how nice the hosts are to me and how grateful they are that I will bring my experience to them, to offer, to share the Spire elements, and to share basically the science of happiness through the lens of critical thinking. So that's what I'm happen to be doing here. I will replicate this and do it elsewhere in points I travel to. But hopefully that's a good answer to your question. I just looked for an opportunity. I looked for volunteer opportunities in Oaxaca, and it popped up and it spoke to me. But I will introduce one more topic on this. So it's involving with flow. When you're on the right path. So for me, finding my purpose really is a matter of aligning myself with my higher self and source, and getting out of my own way. Stop trying to control everything, to stop needing to be right, because you can't control most things. And the point is, I was one of those people that was a control freak. So I'm a recovering control freak, and realizing I can't. And the more I've gotten out of my way, and the more I've leaned into this, I'm engaged without attachment to outcome. So this is Eastern philosophy also. And oh my gosh. So Deepak Chopra took Carl Jung's synchronicity and he kind of gave it a spiritual twist, and he calls it synchro destiny. And when you're on the right path, it's unbelievable how the right people and the opportunities just show up. And I'm telling you, I have goosebumps literally as I share that story, because in the 7 months I've been on the road, opportunity after opportunity, amazing friend after amazing friend just keeps showing up, and new opportunities. And that's how I ended up at a wellness retreat called Pachamama in Costa Rica for 3 months, having the most spiritual transformational experience of my life. Just a huge expansion of consciousness to dial it down from the woo a little bit and bring it back into the science. It's an expansion of consciousness. And that took me to an event called Tribal Gathering on the Caribbean coast of Panama. Anyway, I continue my travels, but I don't make plans. I just made plans to go back to Pachamama, and I'm going back to Tribal Gathering because I had such amazing experiences and met amazing people. But other than that, I'm not planning. I'm letting this beautiful journey unfold without trying to control it. I hope that gets people excited.
Absolutely amazing. And I see Giannina. I don't know if I see your name right. I see you have your video on and you are unmute. So I would love to hear
Yes.
from you. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. This is my favorite Saturday. I'm lying on bed with all of my friends from the community. I had a dinner with an invitation with some friends, and I said, no, I want to go on with my Saturday as way as I have scheduled it. I wanted to connect today with you guys, say hello. I am so happy to be sharing every single experience of all of us. I mean, I just heard what Casey just said. I'm on a similar path as well. Spirituality has been has saved my life, I would say. Saved my life. The mental health issues I have had during my life have been partly or mostly healed because of spiritual acts, no? Different acts, mindfulness, meditation. And I really was wondering, because I have been a very stressed person. And flow, I do not get into flow very easily. okay? But when I teach, I have discovered that when I teach and when I coach and when I teach people and when I speak in public, I really flow. Then I really flow. But I didn't relate that part of my flow, my daily flow, is when I meditate, because I take like 2 hours of meditation in the morning. I breathe for half an hour, I pray for half an hour, and I meditate for another hour. I have 2 hours of meditation in the morning every single day. So that's my flow. When I'm not teaching and I'm not speaking in public, I'm meditating. So I never associated that this meditation, this morning meditation that I practice every day, is my personal flow.
I love it. And I love how you start out with today is a wonderful day and how excited you are to skip dinner with friends to be here with
Yes,
us because
yeah. Friends, I
because
can have friends every day. Now, this is more interesting for me.
one of my good friends, Giovanni, he's in our MA in happiness study, the first ever, and he's actually sad that his family came over to visit for 4 weekends straight, and he had to go out to dinner for them, and he couldn't join us in the past couple of weeks, and he couldn't be here with us today neither because he had to go to dinner. Otherwise, his wife would be very mad at him. So your story kind of remind me of Giovanni. Always have wonderful conversation with Giovanni, and I hope you will get to meet him soon. I think Casey and Giovanni will get together really well. Giovanni had his moment of spiritual awakening on the second month of the MA program. He will introduce the meditation from the happiness study. He practiced it, and his story is so beautiful. I will share the link to his interview for the whole being journey. Watch it, you will like it. But I do want to go back to Casey journey. Congratulations, it is beautiful.
Yes, yes.
And I know exactly what you are saying of how we are fellow journey, and when you vibration in certain vibration, have certain vibrational energy like you are, like how open, how grateful, and how much love that you carry with you. I'm sure people will recognize that. And there's a famous saying that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And it sounds like you are doing both. You are creating that upward spiral of learning and teaching, and that's contributing so much to the world. And you are the living happier center. I have so much respect to you on that. And also to relate it to the topic of flow, you know, I love the term flow. Is definitely resonate with our Eastern philosophy, Eastern culture, and just like it is important for each of us to flow in our life. Go with the flow. Okay, it will lead you to wonderful places that we need it to be. And through the teaching of the Buddha, which we will discuss in 7.4, I also resonate with the teaching of Lao Tzu when it's come to water in nature. So to me, I I I get to understand life through the workflow because in life, just like Casey explained earlier, of how we tend to swim against the current, right? Just imagine a river that is flowing, and instead of just going with the flow, flowing back to the ocean, to where we come from, we tend to try to swim against the current, trying to get back to the top of the mountain, get to the highest point. And all of us struggle so much. I have made so much observation, and I have seen people with success in both their career and in monetary sense, There are people who make millions, even billions of dollars, but they was not happy. They had the money, they had the power, they thought that could make them happy. But a lot of them ended up in rehab center just because they lose purpose in life, right? Where's the point of getting to the peak of success, having all the money, having all the experience, but then you can no longer have that high anymore, right? No longer have that feeling, that emotion. And I see so many people get into like addiction to drug or to gambling just because they want to feel something, right? If they do anything else, it's too easy, and they lost their sense of purpose. And here we are, have happiness. We can define happiness, and all of these are backed by science, and it is so important. And the truth is, when we imagine us as a droplets of water, and if we can just allow ourselves to flow to the stream and getting back to nature, and you know what, the ocean, even though it's salty, but that water can evaporate it, and the wind will take it right back to the top of the mountain, and you can use your water to nurture the entire world itself. So it is a cycle. It is so beautiful. Instead of seeing us, each of us, as a droplets in the ocean, we are the ocean. We are on a journey, right? And I think this is the reason that, Casey, when you decided to just go with the flow, to travel, and you meet the right people, the right people with the same goal, the same realization, and together you guys are doing so much good. And I'm not there to see it, but I know it. I just know it. I just knew that everyone is doing such an amazing job to make the world just a little bit better. And I thank you for that. Thank you for doing what you do and for sharing your inspirational stories. And I guess that will take us to 7.3, mindful purpose, right? What is the purpose of life? Why are we here? And 7.3 tells us that we can be mindful about our purpose. And one thing that I have learned from Tao, and the way that he sets up this lecture, is that there is a huge connection between the first three part of the 4-part lecture. So, and you can try this to go back to every single lecture and and tie each and every one of the three together. So in week 7 we have 7.1, meditation on emotion, and then 7.2, flow, 7.3, mindful purpose. All three of these are going so well together. One of my mentor, he taught me the importance of being mindful, be like living in the present. So I would call that step number 1. We exercise mindfulness so that we don't have to worry about the future. We don't have to regret of the past. We live in the present. And by meditate on emotion, and not just any emotion, we can pick and choose, right? Let's say we're meditating on positive emotion, on gratitude, for example, as Casey mentioned it. And as we practice in our meditation, I remember that Tao did share about the research or the experience where people do meditation, when they exercise meditation, and every 10 second or 30 second, the gong would play. Somebody would like hit the gong and you would hear the sound so that they know to go back to focus. And it was reported that after a while, people can't even hear that gong anymore because they was able to letting go uh, of that object that they meditating on, right? And to me, that very moment is when they officially get into flow. That's when they truly live in the present. Because us sitting here right now, even though you can see me, you can hear me, that is already the past. Because your five senses, your brain have to process the information, make sense of it, and tell you what it is from your perspective. So we constantly live in the past. The true present is when you no longer hear that gong. That is when you officially get into flow. And in flow, you can easily reach peak performance when you have a mindful purpose, right? A basketball player, what is their mindful purpose when they get into flow? They want to perform well, they want to do well in that match. An artist, a painter, what is her or his purpose when she working on that painting? They got into flow, and then mindful purpose is to paint this beautiful painting, and they immerse in that experience, and they come out with a beautiful painting in their hand. What about a performer like a singer or uh, a a, a violin? Like in the I forgot the word for it. But in my presentation, I have the uh, violin player. Let's just call that. You know, when they perform, they get into that flow state where time space is different for them, but they have a purpose. They had a mindful purpose of peak performance in their activity. So combining meditating on emotion, and I would like to use the word positive emotion to get into a state of flow, to get into a mindful purpose. We all can achieve great things. We can all achieve amazing things in life. And I think this is the three steps that can can get us to mastery of of any of any field of any practices, and it is powerful. So, what do you think? I know this worked for me, and I know this worked for a lot of people, and I think this is where great idea comes in. This is how people can you can even call it download it. These great idea, and and I believe everyone had the experience every single day. They just don't know that they are experiencing it. And for those with a purpose, with a destiny, like Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, all of these rich and wealthy billionaires that we all have heard of. I think they all been into this state, and they was able to find their purpose in life, their calling. And that could be very similar to Casey calling, being on the road, meeting new people, building beautiful things. What do you think about that three step of getting closer to your source, getting closer to your higher self? Anyone? Would you like to share, Casey? Do you find similar experience in your spiritual awakening?
Yes, and I love to share. I want to let other people participate too. So I think you waited for anybody else to jump in. I will honestly say this. I won't tell you the exact circumstances, but I will say in a deep meditation, again, if anybody wants to read my blog on spirituality and happiness, you'll see that I dropped in Carl Jung's from a couple of different perspectives. Number one, the dark nights of the soul. And that's when you go to that place and you literally have ego death and you're able to let it go and let it flow. It was how I came out of it. But I experienced some of the most intense grief of my life as I saw a 30-year relationship coming to an end. And it was very powerful and very moving. but at the same time, I was relieved to know that we would both be better off. So another way that I quoted Jung in this is he says, we are born 3 times. We're born from our mother's womb. We're born as our ego forms, and we're born as our consciousness awakens. And in my article, I said, thusly, I have been born 3 times. So I look at it from my Christian upbringing, and in my spiritual awakening, I'll tell you, I was very anti religious, and yet I have a much better relationship with Jesus Christ today than I ever did. But I'm also looking at it through a different lens. I'm looking at him as a master. And Aldous Huxley wrote this book called The Perennial Philosophy. And what he did was he merged, which became my philosophy on how I approached it. He merged the thinkings of the great cultures and the ancient mystery schools and the masters, and he found the common bounds. And it makes sense. It stands to reason. And there's even these kind of spiritual anthropologists these days that are telling us that, hey, it's not a coincidence that these people with no 3,000 years ago who had no connection with each other, there was no way to connect with each other, and yet they had similar ideas and concepts and awakenings. And I'm tapping into that. But really, if I could get back to maybe the point of you bringing me back in, my spiritual awakening was accepting, kind of, if you will, borrow Joseph Campbell, bringing Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, and the difference between job, occupation, and calling. I had never had anything beyond an occupation. I never even had a career. I just kind of went along, even when I was a solopreneur. Like, I had my own restaurant, but I didn't think of myself as a career restaurateur. It was like a stopping point. And I did okay, but I wasn't in it heart and soul. And I knew that I have a person who wants to be heart and soul, everything in, all in, on the journey of exploration and development. And so as I give, and through my practices that came out of this, deep dive back into Eastern philosophy, and out of that, I became, thank you for mentioning Lao Tzu, Ben, because one of my heroes, my favorite book of all time, Tao Te Ching. I recently read, my new number 2 is The 4 Agreements, written by Don Miguel Ruiz about the Toltec philosophy from Mexico. And it's a very simple philosophy, and it's beautiful. And if everybody in the world just followed that, and Lao Tzu's 4 cardinal principles, what does Qian say? It's not sure if it's the word. Anyway, I couldn't read the chat thing, but I will say that through that, I identified as a Tao cultivator, and Tao's 4 cardinal virtues are reverence for all living beings, to show up authentically, to show up with gentleness and kindness, and to be of service to all. And the service element, just it wasn't a coincidence that I was in hospitality and service industry. It's part of my soul. And then ultimately, as I got into yoga, I realized that I identified with karma yoga practice. So those are the 2 things that I lean on as my foundation of being here to serve. And likewise, that I was searching for peace, and peace. I stumbled across that Saint Francis did not pray to God to give him peace. He said, allow me to be a harbinger of peace. Allow me to be an emissary of peace, to become a person that is peaceful to others. And so that is part of my path too. So I don't know if that sounds like spiritual awakening to everybody else, but it's working for me.
I think it definitely is. Shielding earlier, she said she sent a link to a Wikipedia page, and she was just asking if the perennial philosophy, is that what you were talking about? I don't know. So
I'll
I'm not sure
unmute
what that
again.
is neither.
Perennial is all time. It's like perpetual. It's throughout. Perennial means it's throughout time. So throughout all civilizations, he found the common threads in philosophies and religions that were what makes us good people, what makes us, what brings us purpose, and these sorts of things. And therefore, for me, my perennial philosophy, my personal perennial philosophy is built on the concept of learn the best, forget the rest. So I'll read a book and I'll say, okay, here's 4 or 5 things I love about it. And yeah, the rest is good, but I don't have time for that. I'm just keeping the good. I don't need all the filler. It's like I'm living off the spiritual, philosophical cliff notes of time. Cliff notes for you younger types used to be our cheat sheets when we were older. Now you have AI. So come with the AI cheat notes. I'm using AI too. So
Awesome. But I believe that too, I believe that it is important to take the good, if not the best, teaching from all around the world. And it makes so much sense that there is a great connection between all of them. I see Jillian raise her hand. I would love to hear from you, Jillian. Feel free to unmute yourself.
Well, I just want to say something for Casey. Sorry, I'm not mean to interrupt you because it's English is my second language. So when you're sharing about the journey of enlightenment, and I think that the philosophy that you mentioned is quite important, and that's why I want to make sure because I didn't know the words, and that's why I was asked. I put the words there. So sorry for interrupt you or you were sharing, and that's not what I meant though. Thank you. I'm going. I just want to say that.
All right, Jillian, don't feel bad.
if I may, Ben,
Yes,
I'll
please.
finish with this. As I've met so many, again, dialing down the woo and not saying like, well, in certain circles, we call them my spiritual sisters and brothers, but in other circles, I'll just say consciously aware people that are just dialed in. And Ben, you mentioned it earlier, the higher frequency. This is definitely happening. I see it happening. I can even look in the mirror and say, if it happened to me, it's happening to a lot of people. And there were more empathic people than me who started on this path. But as we go along, and it's funny, and I'm going to humbly say that a couple of people said to me while on my path, they're like, "Oh my God, you're becoming a master." And I laughed and I said, "I can't even master myself, let alone be a master for others." But I also crossed another philosophy. We're all each other's teachers. We're all each other's students, and we learn from each other. And if we come with that humble approach, we'll all be better off. I love teaching from the standpoint, like Tal says, read it, learn it, and then teach it. And like Ben is doing, look at Ben go. And it's beautiful. And thank you. I'll just say that the humbler I go, the further I go. And it's a beautiful place to be.
Thank you. Yep. And this is the creation of an upward spiral of growth, right? We are each other teacher and we are each other student. And this is the importance of the Saturday discussion, the missing piece, I believe, in this happiness revolution. And I feel so blessed to have the opportunity to hold this. And thank you so much for putting up with me in the past 7 weeks. I've learned a lot, and many of us have a wonderful time with each other. And I'm sure with more people will join. And I intending to continue this journey. And as we have the October cohort and the February cohort, I planning to do the same thing. We're gonna have at least three sessions a week, because I see how important it is, at least for me. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. And I do want to touch a little bit on the perennial philosophy that Casey mentioned earlier, which was in happiness study. I got to learn about the axle age. That is so eye-opening for me. So about 2,500 years ago, there's a period called the axle age. And the amazing thing about this period is that there are so many great thinkers was born during this period. And as Casey mentioned, they share so much in common, even though they live nowhere near each other. In the ancient China, we have Lao Tzu and then Confucius, and then there's another guy, the student of Confucius. I don't know his name, to be very honest in English. And then we have the Buddha and his student. In Europe, we have ancient Greek philosopher like Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, and many more. It's so hard to keep track of all of them. But for some reason, during that period, we just have so many great thinkers, so many teachers that their teachings still shaping the world we are living today. And I don't think it is a coincidence that happened. And I don't think it is a coincidence that the commodity is right there. It's so much common in all of the teaching. And I'm sure the experience that you have, Casey, and I have had, and my friend Giovanni, and many others that I have talked to, I don't think there's a coincidence. And I love what Tal said about fellow journalists and how he is a student too. He is a fellow journalist in this journey. Together, we are definitely better for the movement. So thank you. Oh, that's my full purpose right there, everybody. But we do have about 17 minutes, and I do want to discuss the Buddha, one of the great thinker of the past, probably one of the most influential being, if not the most influential. And in a way, I see Casey within his journey. His journey actually remind me about the Buddha when I first heard of it, because the Buddha did travel around, he traveled on foot and he shared his teaching. And as he shared his teaching, I don't know if he gained any more new knowledge, but I'm sure he is a great teacher, very influential. And he was told that he was an Indian prince, which means that he has everything he needed to live a luxurious life, but he chose the path of understanding, the path of elevating other people consciousness to help teaching people live a happier life. And even though I have heard of his name many times growing up, but to be very honest with you, I did not read the story. I wasn't familiar with the teaching at all until 2 years ago, when I learned about the Buddha in happiness studies, and then I got to meet many masters that dedicated their entire life to study and practice his teaching. So there are two of the biggest teaching that I got to learn. One is the Four Noble Truths, and the other is the Noble Eightfold Path. And Casey mentioned earlier about the people that we will meet in this journey. And it is believed that, like in Buddhism, there's an idea of us have been living many lives in the past. And during that many lifetimes, we have many friends, many teachers, many fellow journeyers, and we are continuing walking on this path. And each of us can help shed or shine a light on each other path, or together we shine a very bright light to reach the path to happiness. There are 8 paths: the right view, the right intention, the right speech, the right action, the right livelihood, the right effort, the right mindfulness, and the right concentration. And at the foundation, it is important for us to understand the Four Noble Truths. So my understanding is that the first noble truth, stating that life is inherently full of suffering, encapsulated in the concept of dukkha. So life is full of suffering, but that is not the focus. The focus is that the opportunity and the ability to overcome the suffering. So yes, life is full of suffering, but we also can utilize it to learn from the suffering. And then the second noble truth, stating that the origin of suffering is craving or desire, which leads to attachment. Very, very powerful, because as we crave, as we have a desire, we suffer during the process of trying to get there. And then the second that we get there, we suffer even more because it doesn't fulfill the imagination that we might have had in our head. So one of the biggest lessons that I have learned in my 20s, that was when I still deciding which major I wanted to major in. And my mentor at that time told me something very profound. He told me that before you choose any field of study or any major that you want to get in, or any career that you want to get in, it is best if you can just find someone who has been doing that job, or who has been in that field for some time and found success in that field, and see if his life is the life that you want to live. So I followed that teaching, and I started to make my observation, and I met different people in different profession, and I realized that they might be very successful at their career, but the life that they have is not the life that I want, because I still see them suffering, especially the rich and the powerful, because they are there, they fulfill what they desire, but they wasn't happy. In fact, they suffer even more because there was less purpose that they can follow, right? Whatever desire that they want to have, whether it is money or fame, or eating the most delicious food, or experience the most luxurious hotel. They've been there, they've done that, and there was less meaning, less purpose for them, unless they can find the true path to happiness, as we are walking on it, the path to wisdom, the path of understanding. So to me, understanding the second noble truth is very, very powerful. Yes, it is okay to have desire, but don't let that lead to attachment, because when you attach to it, then you are limiting your potential. You imprison your own will, your own idea, your own identity. Just the first and the second, very, very powerful to me. And again, feel free to jump in. I'm just sharing what I find fascinating in this lesson, and I would love to hear from you, most importantly. And yes, Casey.
Anybody else have their hand up?
It's the Casey and
Okay.
Ben show tonight.
Oh, geez. And it's an honor and a privilege, my friend. I I have a twist on Buddhism. And I'm so glad you mentioned food, Ben, because I used to be in the restaurant business. And my former partner she's literally top 1% of cook slash chefs of this on this planet. Anyway, that having been said, I look at positive psychology's leveling up of Buddhism, if you will. I would not change one word of the Eightfold Path, but I like to change the perspective of the Four Noble Truths. This is my own personal philosophy. So bringing it back to food, it's like when somebody says they have this restaurant built on their grandmother's recipes. I think, yeah, maybe, but guess what? They found how there's this new fusion going on, and how these, herbs from here and there and spices from here and there all blend together to make even better flavors. And who knew umami and blah blah. You get the idea. So for me, the Four Noble Truths. If we change one major swing thought, and this is changing ourselves from victim mentality, oh, life is suffering, to being a creator. We're the creator of our own destiny. Life is a self-fulfilling prophecy in my mind. And I heard that 40 some years ago by an early motivational speaker. But I learned to say, why is this happening for me instead of to me? And just that one little simple twist changed my perspective. So you get out ahead of the suffering, as it was explained to me through Wayne Dyer, and his teachings. But so I look at it now, instead of saying life is inherently full of suffering, I say it's full of challenges that help us grow. And that takes away the misery element, and it doesn't let you stew in those angry and bitter sauce that you've left on the stove too long. And so you get out ahead of it. And I mentioned it earlier when I said, I'm able to now be actively engaged without attachment to the outcome. And that speaks to the number two. So if you, like, I learned that I could live with a lot less than I used to think. And you know what? Stuff is starting to flow to me. I know in my heart, call it the law of attraction, call it whatever you want. I know in my heart, I'm going to make more money in my 60s than I made between 20 and 58. And it's not even a factor for me, because I've dedicated the rest of my life to service of others. But it's also happening. It's stuff is just coming my way now. So, I hopefully that just gets the discussion to another level that didn't seem like an intrusion, but an addition. So, Casey, out.
Thanks, Casey. I agree with you 100%. And my belief, my perspective changed thanks to the similar realization. So instead of seeing life as full of suffering, my realization is that life is full of loving, right? Just like the love of a parent for their child. Because if your children don't behave, then we have to discipline them. It's not like we hate them, we don't want to hurt them, we want the best for them. But we have to discipline our children so we can protect them, so that they can learn to become a better person. So to me, the universe or God, or however you want to call it, is full of love. And you can call it suffering, but I call it lesson, opportunity to learn. You got to recognize that love and kindness and compassion, right? Because we are given so many chances to be better. And when we can just flow with nature, flow with that love, then we receive so much back. All the universe wants to do is to give us the best. We just need to accept it. We shouldn't swim against the current. And I agree with you 100%. Just like the body, when you get the bad flu and you got over it, your immune system becoming stronger. So it is not about suffering. 2,500 years ago, yes, maybe that's what people needed to hear. because suffering is in their face, they can't ignore it. So they need to accept that life is full of suffering, but it is different now. We are looking to live in the age where we have freedom, we have love, we have kindness, and we can see that, oh, these pain, this suffering, it is temporary. This pain and suffering can make us who we are today and even better in the future. So I agree with you 100%. And I, when I understand this, my life is full with just love and kindness. I no longer get mad at people when they get mad at me. I will like, that person is suffering, and I can feel their pain. But I have compassion for them, but I'm not in pain. I understand where they're coming from. So it's all about loving kindness, gratitude, appreciation. And when you understand that, you just overflow with compassion and love, and it is so beautiful. And it is beautiful, no matter of fact. So thank you for bringing that up. We have like 3 minutes left, and I would love to hear anyone who would like to share. I don't want to take all the time either. Let's see, Victoria. Hello, Victoria.
Hello, Ben. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Ben, again for the discussion. And I would like to jump in and rejoice in Casey's comments about the 2 points. First of all, I love Buddha's teaching on the Four Noble Truths, especially the second truth, as Ben mentioned, about the root of all our human problems, which is our attachment to our own desires. We always want things happen in the way we want things to be. And so that's why we get upset and angry when things are not going our way. And then I love Casey's comment saying that, okay, just a matter of changing, shifting our perspective from instead of thinking, oh, like life is happening to me, and then we just change this perspective into, oh, that is what is happening for me. So instead of reacting to external condition in a very negative ways because we don't like what is going on, then we take it as an opportunity to learn and to grow. Then we can change our perspective and make it happening. Something is happening not in our way we wish, but we can change this as our opportunity to shape our way of thinking and our attitude towards life. So that is very important because we always have the choice. We cannot control external circumstances. Somebody insulted, but we can smile to them. We don't need to get angry to them. That is an active approach. That is a proactivity. And that is how we can control situation and make things happening for us instead of making it happening to us. So that is the first point. I agree. The second point is that you say that instead of attaching to the outcome, because we tend to wish for something to happen, to grasp at the result we desire so that we can feel happy. But the thing is, just as Tan explained very well in the happiness course, that we should learn to enjoy the process instead of just the outcome. Because even if we can achieve the best that we can, it doesn't last for long. Our feeling of happiness, of satisfaction doesn't last for long. So if we achieve this one, we climb this mountain, then there must be another mountain for us to climb. And even we climb the highest mountains that could exist in the universe, we still are satisfied. So instead, we need to learn how to be satisfied in this present moment when we are able to be mindful, to be in the flow, to be in this present moment, then all the space and the time just disappear and melt into together, and we are in the flow and in the process, and we will be able to enjoy the present moment, the process, rather than the tomorrow one. Because just as Thich Nhat Hanh always say that if we become anxious, if we think about the future, and we become depressive, we keep thinking in the past and only in the present, that makes us happy and peaceful and satisfied. So this the second noble truth that Buddha taught us about how to control our desire, our way of thinking, is very important in terms of mastering the art of happiness, because happiness, whether we are happy or not, depends on how we react to things and how to our ability to control our own mind, our own desire. That is the most important and most difficult thing, but it's doable through the course learning happiness, and then through coming back to our own emotion and our cognition. Then we can learn to master the art of being happy and be able to control our desire and not be control our desire and be slave to our desire and make our life very, very misery and suffering. So whether suffering or not, it depends on our state of mind, not depends on the external circumstances. That is my sharing.
Thank you, Victoria. And we passed a couple of minutes, so I would love to stay here all night with everyone. But we gotta keep it within the 9 minute. And we will get to see each other every week now. Could be more in the future. And I would like to take a moment to thank everyone who joined us today. Giannia, Victoria, Chilling, especially thanks to KC, who are so kind to share with us his journey. And I feel so blessed to have someone like you join our discussion as well at this wonderful journey. And I'm sure we will see each other more often. And I would love for you to meet Giovanna if you haven't already. I think you have so much in common, and hopefully you will be able to draw inspiration from each other. And I do want to end this discussion with a song that my wife Jasmine using her learning from the MA class and the recent MA technique, and somehow it just all come together beautifully, and this is a perfect fit for this week discussion. So with that, I wish you a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much for all you do, and the world will definitely be a better place.
As I forgive, I am forgiven. As I let go, I am free. Release the chains and rise above it, lighting up the world for all to see. Forgive and shine, we're moving forward. Let go of pain and break the ties. Be the light in darkest corners. In this world, let love arise. Hold on tight to peace and kindness. Let your heart be open wide. Forgiveness brings a sense of wholeness. Feel the love grow deep inside. Forgive and shine, we're moving forward. Let go of pain and break the ties. Be the light in darkest corners. In this world, let love arise. Spread your Let go of pain and break the ties. Be the light in darkest corners. In this world, let love arise. In this world, let love arise. In this world, let love arise.
Good night, everybody, or good morning. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you.
you.
Thank you very much.